If you've ever felt absolutely nothing while everyone else is losing their minds over a game, this video will explain why, and why psychology says that's not a flaw, but a different brain design. In the next few minutes, you'll understand what's really happening in your mind when sports leave you completely cold, while massive crowds are yelling at their screens, painting their faces, and feeling emotionally shattered because a team of strangers lost. There's a large group of people who feel nothing at all. Neuroscience suggests this isn't random. Your brain may actually be wired in a fundamentally different way, and once you see why, you'll never look at sports fans the same again. Here's what almost no one tells you. Not caring about sports doesn't mean you're boring, unmotivated, or missing some essential human trait. Nothing is broken. In fact, your brain may be operating in a way that separates you from nearly 60% of people who follow sports with neurological intensity. So why do so many people care so much in the first place? The answer starts with biology. Humans are deeply tribal by nature. For most of history, belonging to a group wasn't about identity, it was about survival. Your tribe protected you, helped you find food, and kept you alive. Modern sports are essentially updated tribes, just with jerseys, logos, and stadiums. When fans watch their team, their brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same chemical responsible for trust and family attachment. Their brain temporarily treats professional athletes as if they're part of their inner circle. But here's the first major difference. People who don't care about sports often have much weaker tribal instincts. Their sense of self isn't built around belonging to a group. They're more independent thinkers, more likely to feel complete without attaching their identity to a collective. And this isn't just theory. Research supports it. The 2019 study found that people with low interest in sports showed significantly less versus them thinking. In other words, they don't automatically feel hostility toward outsiders just because they support a different team. But this is where things get even more interesting. Because what happens inside the brain of a dedicated sports fan during a game is intense. That excited feeling right before opening a gift, that surge of anticipation, that's dopamine activating in your brain. Sports fans experience that same chemical response during games, every play, every moment. Constant microbursts of anticipation and reward. This is why sports can feel addictive. Brain scans using fMRI technology show that watching a favorite team activates the same reward centers involved in gambling and other highly stimulating behaviors. And here's the second hook. The real power comes from uncertainty. Not knowing whether the team will win keeps dopamine levels elevated. That unpredictability is what makes it so compelling. Psychology calls this intermittent reinforcement the most addictive reward pattern known. It's the same principle that keeps people pulling slot machine levers. The brain doesn't care where dopamine comes from. It just wants more. People who don't care about sports simply don't get that dopamine spike from watching competition they're not directly involved in. And this difference may go deeper than preference. Research from the University of Chicago suggests that variations in dopamine receptor genes can influence how much someone enjoys competitive spectator activities. Let that sink in. Your complete indifference to whether the Lakers win or lose may literally be written into your DNA. But there's still one more layer that explains a lot sports fans often experience. Something called basking in reflected glory. When their team wins, they say, "We won." When the team loses, suddenly it's "they lost." That shift isn't accidental. People who don't obsess over sports are far less likely to do this. Their self-image stays more stable. They don't rely on external victories to feel successful. Their self-esteem is usually more consistent, less fragile, and far less dependent on outcomes they can't control. Before the comment section explodes, let's clarify one thing. This isn't about who's right or wrong. One mindset isn't better than the other. But the psychological differences between sports fans and non-fans are very real. And once you understand them, a lot of things suddenly make sense. Here's something that sounds counterintuitive. Sports fans often score higher on certain empathy measures. They regularly practice caring deeply about wins, losses, and struggles, even when those people are complete strangers wearing the same jersey. So why don't people who dislike sports feel that same emotional connection? Because empathy isn't unlimited, it's allocated. Everyone has a finite emotional budget. People who aren't into sports usually direct that empathy somewhere else, toward close relationships, social causes, creative work, learning, or personal growth. The 2021 study found that people with low interest in sports scored significantly higher in openness to experience and appreciation for art and beauty. They're not emotionally flat. They're still chasing intensity, meaning, And connection, they're just finding it through music, art, nature, ideas, and imagination, not competition. Here's the next important shift. For some people, disinterest in sports isn't just preference, it's protection. Maybe gym class was humiliating. Maybe sports culture felt exclusionary. Maybe they instinctively push back against aggressive competitiveness. Or maybe they never understood why grown adults scream at screens over a ball. Your indifference might have a backstory. Or maybe you simply find it boring. Both are completely valid, but this is the key reason sports fans and non-fans often talk past each other. They experience meaning differently. Sports fans find meaning through narrative. The underdog, the comeback, the rivalry, the dynasty. It works because it's unscripted drama with uncertainty and emotional stakes. People who don't care about sports often see that same randomness and think, why emotionally invest in an outcome I can't influence, performed by people I don't know, in a game that doesn't affect my real life? They're not wrong, and neither are sports fans. These are simply two different ways of satisfying the human need for story and significance. Point 1. Group finds epic meaning in a championship run. The other finds it in a novel, a relationship, a creative project, or a breakthrough idea. Researchers describe this difference as parasocial investment versus direct engagement. Sports fans form one-sided emotional bonds with teams and players. Non-sports people prefer investing emotional energy where there's reciprocity, where their presence matters, where their actions influence the outcome, where they're participants, not spectators. Neither strategy is superior, they're just different ways of navigating life. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who studied optimal experience, showed that flow states, moments of total absorption, can come from countless activities. For some, that flow comes from watching sports. For others, it comes from almost anything else. And here's something especially revealing: people who don't obsess over sports often report feeling more present in their own lives. They're not spending hours each week emotionally living someone else's struggle. They are fully engaged in their own. There's something quietly powerful about that. So what does all this mean? If you don't care about sports, you're not missing a fundamental human experience. You're simply wired differently. Your reward system, your tribal instincts, your empathy focus, they're calibrated another way, and that's not a weakness. So the next time someone asks, did you watch the game? And you honestly couldn't care less, remember this: you're not broken. You're not boring. You're just playing a different game. Point 1 that might, just maybe, have higher stakes. And if this resonated with you, you'll want to see why quiet people process the world differently, and why that difference may actually be your greatest advantage. Click one of these videos to discover why your mind doesn't work like the crowds.